Hey there, Stampers, and welcome to another Step It Up video. This week I went back to one of my old favorites, Elements of Style, and I started with the third one and I worked my way backwards, and I like step 1 and step 2 the best. So I think this could be used for so many occasions, and it was so fast and simple, and I think it's elegant. And anyways, this is our step 1. And step 2, I love this new ribbon. And step 3 has a lot going on, a little too much for my taste, but you know, we're gonna work with it. So let's go ahead and get started. Our step 1, we're using, this is chocolate chip cardstock and the standard 8.5 by 5.5 folded at 4 1/4 to make a standard A2 card base. And then we're gonna use a piece of crumb cake cardstock, and that's 4 by 5 1/4. Pretty simple. You're going to adhere that down, leaving a, you know, an equal border all the way around. And then the chocolate chip mat is 3 by 4 1/4, which would make this 2 3/4 by 4. And that's the card. Now I'm going to show you how. All you're going to do is stamp this part. We're using Elements of Style and Thank You Kindly. Here's the Elements of Style stamp set and Thank You Kindly. And I have the floral on the big block, and we're going to use our markers to ink this stamp. Let me find my chocolate chip. I just had it. Here it is, chocolate chip. So I start with the stems. I know some people prefer to start with whatever's lighter, but I'm gonna start with the stems. And this part is the same for all 3 step cards. You're going to ink up this stamp, and sometimes I can't think and use the marker at the same time, so I tend to use or not know what I'm going to say. So I apologize in advance for any pauses, awkward pauses that come along. So, you know, just do that part, do the stems, and I'm not worried about the leaves. I'm doing everything else in the crumb cake. And really, you could do the whole thing in crumb cake, but I think that little kind of detail with the chocolate chip, I said it again, didn't I? With the chocolate chip stems, take 2, with the chocolate chip stems, you know, ties back the colors that we're already using in the card. So it is a little bit, you know, more time consuming, and you have to think about it a little bit rather than just inking up and using it. But I think it's a nice detail that's worth a tiny bit of extra effort. It's not a lot. You just have to take your time. And I turn it, and that way the light, you know, kind of shows me where I've inked, because it glistens a bit. That was 3. I'm going to try to get through this without saying anymore. Is it possible? I could have a... I know when I get stamping and I'm concentrating on what I'm doing, so I don't think I can walk and talk and chew gum at the same time. I think that's what this is telling me. Okay, I think it's pretty inked up. So I'm going to huff on it, and then I'm going to use this note card. You just want to leave this space here because we're going to add that little note of thanks. So you want to make sure that you have space for it. And just apply a good amount of pressure so you get a nice, clear, even image, like so. And then with chocolate chip, you could use a pad, but I have the marker here. I'm just gonna put this on. Now, when I made my stamps, I think this one comes out a little wonky, so you have to line it up the best way you can, or use your Stamp-A-Majig. And it's this simple. And then adhere it to the cardstock and the mat, and that's your level 1 card. Our level 2 card, I took the same stamp that we used for the main image, and I just inked it up with crumb cake ink, and I created the look of like a designer paper on the cardstock. And I didn't worry a whole lot about it, but I did it twice and then inked it up again, and give it a good push, and then maybe just come back in here on this little bit. It's only the outside that's going to show, as you can see on the step 2. And then I took the ribbon, so we came back, here's the card base, and here is the crumb cake. Adhered this to the mat. Oh, I did pop it up on dimensionals. So before you adhere this down, you're going to pop this one up, and then you're going to run your bit of ribbon just above the note of thanks, and run it behind the crumb cake, and then you're going to adhere it down onto the chocolate chip. On this type of ribbon, I always do, I think I've said this before, I always do a bunny rabbit ear bow. So you make your 2 little rabbit ears, you follow it in the little hole, and then I get it sort of, you have to be careful because of this scallop edge, but I keep it a little bit loose, and then when I get it to where I want it, I sort of play with just turning the ribbon in back so that it shows the dots on both sides. Just finesse it a little bit, and it comes out, and then you're going to trim it and adhere it on your card, just like this one. See? And then for the step 3, I didn't use a bow, so let's get to this one. On this, I have this mat, the crumb cake mat. I have a piece of, this is the Designer Series paper, the patterns stack in neutrals. And I liked this in particular because I like matchy-matchy, and it does perfectly. You can't even lose the fact that there's a mat. But I love that it echoes the dots in the ribbon. So this is still the same. We're going to put this down. The only thing I did different is I stamped on a piece of white cardstock, and then I fussy cut some flowers out. And I did the same with the hummingbird. And then I popped the flowers up on dimensionals. And they don't have to be perfect, or they don't have to match where there's something already. And I just popped them up so that it gives it a little more interest. I used the designer label punch in chocolate chip and just punched the tag after I ran this just like I did in the step 2 card, except I didn't have the note of thanks, so you can even just, for this purpose, I'll just cover it up here. Run it down closer to the bottom, but you do want to see some of that white out at the bottom. So this is going to go sort of in the middle. And then I used a note of thanks and chocolate chip. And then I used the modern label punch to punch this out. Now this fits, but you don't have a lot of wiggle room for it. So you want to stamp it and then take your modern label punch and put it right where you I think it'll work perfectly. And then pop it. And I love that this fits so perfectly in the decorative label punch. So just like that. Then I added a bit of pearls, and I'm got to order some more. But I took some of these strip pearls. You see, I took, these just come out, there's 7 of them. So I centered the fourth one in, right in between the O and the F. So I cut off 7 and then I put them in there. And then I used 3 of these small ones over here, and I used a small one for the eye of the hummingbird. The hummingbird I just cut out, fussy cut, and popped him up on dimensionals as well. So I hope this helps and you like this week's cards. I really like monochromatic cards. And I like simple and clean. And I think these are really pretty. So I hope this has been fun, and I'll see you next time. Bye!